Lenovo sent me over a really good laptop. This is the 2026 Lenovo Legion 5i. This is the 5i. There's the 5A, AMD, Intel. These are revised a fair bit actually in 2026. They're generally the same type of laptop as the previous generation. This is mine. I bought this specifically for the review. You can see that there. This is the previous generation one, 2025. They're quite similar. 2026, they did do a few tweaks. First of all, they do offer it with a 5070 12 gigabyte, which is a really good GPU. Yeah, you pay more for it, but it's a really good GPU. It unlocks the 5070. That's what we have here. You can also get it with a brand new CPU, the Intel 251HX, not the 255HX, the 251HX. It's actually a weaker CPU. They take out 2 cores, but it doesn't really matter. In gaming performance, you're not going to lose gaming performance. Theoretically, you could actually gain some performance. Maybe, because a lot of the time, these extra cores aren't really benefiting you, especially at this type of performance level, and you potentially are getting more efficiency. What I mean by that is you could potentially get a little bit more power going to the GPU, because it's a more efficient CPU. Other things that have changed, of course, we do have a slightly different. This is a 15.3-inch OLED. Last year was a 15.1-inch OLED. This one here, you might notice, is much less reflective, which was my biggest gripe in the past. The screen that comes with this natively is incredibly reflective, but I personally bought the screen protector, the anti-reflective screen protector, and I put it on here for the review. Yeah, I sacrificed that, and that was 25 bucks down the drain, so you guys better appreciate it. Otherwise, there is a slight chassis change as well. So this laptop here is going to be in the same niche. It's for people who are looking for very portable gaming. So it's going to appeal towards people who want a gaming laptop that doesn't cost quite as much and is very portable. Slightly smaller screen, which for many people like me is beneficial. Not too small like 14, not too big like 16. And it's also very beneficial for people who are students, engineers, business people who want to take a laptop like this on the go that has really high CPU performance, really high GPU performance, excellent screen, and excellent cooling. Very interesting laptops. Links in the video description down below. I do not take sponsors. I do not do paid reviews ever. So I actually do benefit and really rely on those affiliate links. Affiliate links help me a lot. If you're gonna buy something anyways, please consider using the affiliate links as it helps support the channel. Let's jump in here and see what I think about this new laptop. So here on the right, we have the Legion 5A. On the left, we have the Legion 5i. A for AMD, I for Intel. There's a price difference there, but there's also a performance difference. AMD here, it is the refresh chassis. So it is the new chassis. However, it uses the 450, which is literally just a refresh chip from last year. It's the same chip. It's just, look, here's a new name. That's where AMD's at right now. So for example, right here, this is the Best Buy US website. It's on sale. I've actually seen it a little bit cheaper than that, but still that's already, on sale already. It just came out. 251HX, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and 5070. This is literally the laptop that we have today. So, if you don't like the full price, then wait for sale. Who knows what's going to happen? Prices could go up even more. Market is bad. RAM and SSDs are crazy expensive. GPUs are super expensive. It has nothing to do with the laptop manufacturers or Best Buy. It's NVIDIA, OpenAI, and policymakers. So we can see here we do have 2 CPU options. It's $110 to get the bigger CPU. It is a significantly more powerful CPU. It has 2 more cores, and I've already tested the 290HX. It's very powerful. If you are primarily doing CPU heavy tasks, that is actually worth it. It's a big jump in CPU performance, but for gaming, I actually do not recommend that, even if it was free. Personally, I don't think I would grab it because it's more hungry. It's going to be more heat. It's going to pull more watts from the GPU. So personally, for gaming or mixed use, I'd go that. If very much going CPU heavy, sure, that's fine. RAM here options, you can upgrade it yourself. RAM is so expensive right now, so it is what it is. Make your choice. Same with SSDs. They're so expensive right now. You could just get it stock and just throw in a second SSD in the side. There is the 5060, which is $300 cheaper. So normally you look at that and say, well, that's a pretty good savings. You go $300 cheaper and you get 10% lower performance, but it's also an 8 gigabyte versus a 12 gigabyte. They don't have the 5070 8 gigabyte anymore, fortunately. They're just going with the 12 gigabyte, which is just straight up a better system. And then the switch from black to white, which is such a score because the black one is horrible for fingerprints, the white one will not be, is $0. So that's obviously huge. You can also switch up your Wi-Fi. The only difference here today is we have the black one, unfortunately, but I would highly recommend going for the white one, just getting that. And then, these things go on sale, throw some coupons on, student discounts, whatever you got, get them on sale. Okay, so here we have two laptops. On the left here we have the Legion that we're looking at today, which is the Loner. This is the Loner from Lenovo that we're looking at today. See that there? And this is mine. I just bought this. I actually, to be honest, bought this to do this review. It's a slightly different version. This is the previous generation with also the IPS screen, so we can see the difference kind of there. The screen is a little bit of a different format type thing, and the chassis is different. Primarily, I just want to show the chassis, look at the internals, do a comparison. This is the AMD version. It's basically the exact same chassis as the previous generation Intel. This is the current generation Intel. So there is a chassis revision, which you can get for AMD or Intel. So it doesn't matter, but this is the previous generation. So let's just start by looking at the actual external chassis here. So just move that back slightly. First things first here, we'll point out, the chassis design differences. They're very similar. Same. This is like a little bit deeper here because the screen is just positional different. We'll see that in a minute. Otherwise, same. Keyboard, basically the same. They actually sit slightly at a slightly different level, I guess, but they're basically the same. This one's pushed slightly further back. This one's pushed slightly further this way. Just slightly design differences there. Trackpad is identical. Texture and material is identical. No difference there. This has the single bar with the hinge there. This has a dual hinge there because this is a different screen. Physically, the screen is actually slightly larger than the OLED on this generation here. This happens to be IPS, but it's just the way that it is. So it's slightly bigger than the previous generation OLED, but it's also positioned differently. You'll also notice there's a rounding of the bezel there. These are square, completely square. These are rounding, and it actually does your trackpad, your arrow key will slightly vanish up into the corners. You can see that there, just a little bit. Whereas over here, it goes right to the corner. So there's a tiny little bit of screen that's being covered. There's just a round screen, is what it is. No real difference other than that, but the chassis is slightly different. Okay, bump out there, different as well. Here we just had plastic across here. Here we have this little, I don't know, glossy thing there. I don't know, man. Materials are basically exactly the same. Fingerprint, very fingerprint prone on both of them. I usually get skins for these. I rocked the AMD version of this for 5 months, maybe 6 or 7 months, and I also rocked the Intel probably 3 or 4 months. Quite a bit for me, because I usually like to flip around laptops. There it is what it is. But we can see there, previous generation versus current generation, it's actually longer. This is longer. See that? This one has the gun, like the bum that sticks out there, sticks out past the screen. The screen is roughly the same position. You can see they're basically the same position, more or less, but this just has more chassis at the back there. So it's a deeper laptop that way. This one is more traditional, where the hinge is essentially at the back of the laptop. So that's cool. This side here, this is so new that it has a sticker on it. I guess I'm the first to review it. It's a Loner from Lenovo. Yeah, it does appear to be also thinner. Okay, so the screen here is slightly thinner. They actually got the screen itself to become thinner this way. This one is a little bit thicker. So as a result, the entire laptop is a little bit thinner as a result. Not like a centimeter or anything like that, but probably a millimeter, maybe a couple. Right, so it is definitely a thinner laptop, and of course it's shorter this way as well. So generally speaking, it is thinner. So last generation, 2050. 19, oh, that's over 100 gram cut. So, I mean, it makes sense. The laptop is physically thinner. It has less at the back here, and it's physically thinner. So it makes sense that it's lighter. It's 100 grams lighter. That's interesting. And it's just slightly more compact, right? Smaller footprint. And like it's physically shorter, right? Like even if we set it here, quite a bit, actually. It's quite a bit taller. So this is a much thicker laptop. It's taller that way. And it's also heavier. Look at the fingerprints on these things. I always get a skin. But they come in now, so this is black. It only comes in black. This year, with depending on Intel, AMD, whatever, you can get a white one, which is such a score because normally I have to buy a skin for these because the black, it's just, I can't, man. I can't deal with these black laptops. If it was like a metallic, it would be fine, but this is like a matte color and it's so bad for fingerprints. You can wipe it down, it takes 2 seconds, but just be aware you can also get these in like a white, which is such a game changer. Ethernet. So on this year's model, we lose the USB-A. You can see it's Thunderbolt though. This is USB 4. This is, I guess, Thunderbolt certified. So it's a certified Thunderbolt. So it's Intel, right? So makes sense. If you get AMD, it would be the same. And then on the right side, USB-A, USB-A, headphone, headphone, camera, camera. So we've lost a USB-A on both sides this year. But then on the back, we gain. So power, this is again old last year, power, HDMI. That's all that's on the back for last year. This year, it's exactly the same, but we gain our two USB-As. So they have moved two of the USB-As to the back is essentially what they've done. I'm not sure if it's just a motherboard layout or whatever it is, but I mean, so you do still get the two USB-Cs on that side, and you do still get one easily accessible USB-A, but the other ones are on the back. I'm not against that. It's personal preference, I suppose. It is nice to have things at the back, like a lot of the ports, especially the power, which is an annoying one, and HDMI, which is an annoying one. I do not like to have power and HDMI on the side of my laptops. My current Yoga, which I can't reach just behind me, does have that. Bottom of the laptops, basically the same, right? Obviously this one's smaller, but same idea. Slightly bigger, I suppose, intake area. Otherwise, pretty much the same. Now in the hand, both of them do feel quite nice. This is a little thick. Yeah, I mean the screen, because it's IPS, a little different, but generally speaking, it was always slightly thick. Not a truly thick laptop per se, but it felt a little thick. However, it does feel very premium. It's all plastic. That's the crazy thing. Plastic top, plastic here, plastic bottom, but it always felt robust. It's like a premium plastic. Very hard to describe, but that's just how I describe it. A premium plastic. This year, it's the same feel in the hand. Thinner. It just feels thinner. Just as rigid. The screen here is metal though. Of course, this is now a metal top. Nice upgrade. It even feels cool to the touch. That's interesting. So it just feels a little bit more premium. You still do end up with plastic here, plastic on the bottom, but it was never a problem to have plastic on the bottom. One of the nice things, actually, it didn't transfer heat. So no matter how hot this thing got on your lap, like internally, this thing was cold because plastic. Plastic does not transfer heat nearly as much as metal. It's nowhere near as thermally conductive. So, I mean, we do have the upgrade of that there. That actually should keep fingerprint. I mean, it may show fingerprints more. Probably does actually, but you can wipe it down quickly. But it's just a premium laptop because the screen is like, it's legitimately considerably thinner. So it's good that they put on metal just to protect it from getting hit on the backside. Otherwise you could potentially get damage. Thinner laptop, it still feels very robust in the hand. Now let's look at a hinge test here real quick. A little bit of wobble, but not too bad. And as you push it back, it gets a little bit less. But the actual, like, let's get it here. Overall, like I'm now moving the desk quite a bit. And there's no wobble. It's only when you actually open it or close it, but the actual wobble on the key on the screen there is none. Right? The whole desk is wobbling. This doesn't wobble. So if I did that, of course there's some wobble, but once it's set up and it's in its position, it's not moving anymore, then it doesn't have any keyboard wobble or any screen wobble. Okay, so here's a look inside. There is some changes this year. It's a little hard for me to do the top down because it's so wide. It just won't fit well on camera. I'd have to turn them, and I don't like that. So we'll go this route. So speakers are the same. There's no real difference. This one's taller, but they're functionally the same. Battery, there's two options. This is the smaller battery, 60 watt hour, but you can get the full-size battery. So technically you can get both of these with the same battery. 80 watt hour, 60 watt hours, it's your choice. This is the 60, this is the 80, just so you know. 20%, 20 watt hours lost. Now, otherwise, upgradability. So on this year, there is, I guess I would call it a downgrade. Right here, we have a 2242 and a 2280. The 2280 will go over there without any problems whatsoever. 2242. So my current Yoga is the same, 2242, 2280. So you can put in, like a 2 terabyte or something or whatever over there, or just leave that. And then over here, you can put in a much larger one. You cannot put in a dual-sided because that's sitting there. So there is definitely a downgrade there. Thinner laptop, they had to make some concessions, I suppose, but single-sided will be fine. But that is a downgrade, I would say. Because over here, we do have a 2280. Underneath here, there are 2 RAM slots, and then there's a 2280 there. Sometimes they actually ship with that length, but it has an adapter. So you can get 2 times 2280 in here, 1 times 2280 here, 2242. So that's a downgrade straight up. Just less possible storage. However, we're in the apocalypse. RAM is unbelievably expensive. Storage is unbelievably expensive. I don't know how many people would be, taking out this primary drive, eating them, and then putting in a second drive and that as well. That would be very difficult. Maybe somebody like me who just has drives around, but the average person is going to leave the primary installation on there and then just throw in another drive. So that's one thing to be aware of there. Okay, so that's that there. Both using SODIMM, 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 SODIMM. This just has like a casing for both of them. This one does not. It's a thinner laptop, so I see why they did that. So that's that. So generally speaking, the only thing we've changed here, other than this specific model, is we've lost 2280, switched it over to 2242. The cooling solution looks similar, not exactly the same. The fans are actually slightly different. These are taller, I suppose, and they actually have a bevel. Is that the term? Bevel? I'm not sure what the term would be here, what that word is, where it goes up and there's a ridge there. We do not have that over here. These are just more or less, they're still slightly slanted up, but they're a little bit different shape. They're just technically not the same fan overall. However, the surface area looks larger. So this is actually potentially a little thicker this way. This is a larger fan. Can't tell exactly what's all inside of there, but it has the potential to be bigger. These chambers are larger than this. This is a smaller chamber. So potentially, it could potentially actually run cooler, if anything, to be honest, because bigger fans. They're still using a dual heat pipe, dual. So we have a primary there. The difference here is this one is short, like that. It's flipped, but it's basically the same. This one comes to here. This is longer. So it has a much longer heat pipe as well. I guess that's one thing. I don't know what's under here. Some type of auxiliary chip. I don't know what that is under there, but it's not covered in here and it's not cooled. So whatever's under there, I'm not going to take this off. It's a review sample. If it was mine, I would remove this off and see what's under there, but it's not mine. I don't own this, so we can't do it. And then you have your VRMs in that as well. You have more VRAM in this because this is a 12 gigabyte 5070. So somewhere in here there's more memory. I don't know. Probably under here. This would probably be the GPU, and there's probably the modules under there. So generally speaking, they look very similar. I would say there's a downgrade where we're going to a 2242 instead of a dual 2280. It's not the biggest deal because we do still have 2 storage. I would be straight up upset if there was not 2 storage. We still have that. So that's like a minor downgrade. I would call the other things an upgrade. So we actually have better cooling. I think in the end, it's a decent trade-off. You're able to get a thinner laptop, it's considerably thinner to be honest, shorter this way, so there's just less room. It's compacted this way, it's thinner this way, so they have to make concessions. You know, they even put like the Wi-Fi slanted there, so they've definitely shrunk this thing down. The only concession that I've seen is they've gone away from a 2280 to 2242. Now Legion keyboards are pretty legendary, I would say, kind of best in class for gaming laptops. Gaming laptops, they have a variable range of keyboards. Typically, I would say they range, nowadays, they're usually okay. Back in the day, a lot of gaming keyboards actually really sucked. We don't have that issue as much anymore. One of the nice things about these is the Legion, despite being a gaming laptop, has always appealed towards non-gamers as well. Professionals, engineers, people do like GIS, that kind of stuff, video editing, that kind of thing. Honestly, legitimately, because you get a really, I mean, it's robust. GPU, CPU, all that kind of stuff. They're always relatively thin and fairly discreet despite being gaming laptops. So you've always had that nice, you go into a professional setting and it's not like, well, it's obviously like a gaming laptop, screaming lights and all that kind of stuff. It's always been discreet. As a result, you also get a numpad for professional work, which has always been nice for me. I'm actually using a Yoga right now without a numpad, which it does feel weird because I'm always trying to reach over here and I've been doing more professional, like my other stuff on my desktop or hooked up to here. I guess it's not as big of an issue, but I already missed the numpad. I use a Legion for like a year. This for a year, basically. So I do miss it already. That's always nice. The only, like, I guess it's not fully separated. Sometimes I'll hit that when I'm doing backspace, but it's pretty rare once you get the hang of it. And it's a full-size keyboard. Thin bezels on the side there, so as a result, you do get a full-size keyboard. You do have functions like that, brightness up, brightness down, media keys, I guess you call them, and you can go function that and you can lock it so that now they're actually function keys. That's always great. Smallish trackpad on this one here. So that's that. Copilot key, at least it's like, you're not going to be as likely to hit it because there's nothing else over there. The arrow keys on my other one, I always hit the Copilot constantly because the arrow keys are embedded up. These are separated down. I mean, very nice actually for navigating Excel spreadsheets and that kind of stuff. Of course, you do have RGB. 3 different modes, 1, 2, 3, and they're presets. Now we'll get into the Legion space stuff in a moment, but what we're caring about here, because we're getting into the keyboard, is we do have the lighting center, right? You can come in here You can pick what you want. Black, white, that's just the background. Breathing, always on, off, and you can, for example, create new ones. Lighting zone 1. Let's make that random color. Let's make lighting zone 1 red. Now, before I start, I've used this laptop, basically my version of it, for like a year straight, maybe a year and a half, and I've used Legions probably more than any other laptop, or the similar Yoga 9i Pro, which also has a numpad. Just recently I switched to the 7 Pro, which does not have a numpad, so I'm going to be a little rusty because it's been a couple weeks of me using that, but let's see if I can get back into it and how quickly. Immediately I'm good. Yeah, I mean, it's a Lenovo Legion keyboard. What do you want from me? One of the best keyboards you'll ever use. There's no like debate about it. You may have a personal preference or bias towards something else, and that's fine. Everybody has their own preference. But as far as keyboards go, Lenovo Legions are amongst the best that you can possibly get. They are incredible keyboards. You get things like, the numpad is off to the side, the trackpad's off to the side. You get a numpad. So people don't like that. That's just personal preference. But the actual typing experience on these things is incredible. It took me 1 second to get back into it. It's so good. It's super snappy. Tons and tons of snap on there. It just feels satisfying to type on it. Weirdly, it feels better than the 7i and 7i Pro. I don't know why. One of my buddies, he also has this for quite some time. He did comparisons to the 7i Pro, Yoga as well, and he agreed with me. There's something about this 5i's, the 15-inch. I don't know what it is. They just are better. Now, the trackpads are nothing special on these. Legions generally have pretty good trackpads. There's nothing wrong with them. It's fairly small overall, as far as like modern trackpads go, but for me, that's more than enough. Bigger than a deck of cards, put it that way. It's more than enough. It is off-centered because the keyboard is off-centered, right? This has a numpad. If you're going for a pure typing machine, you don't want a numpad, then everything can be shifted over and it'll be dead center. And of course, the trackpad will be shifted off dead center. But here, if you take that out, it is center to the keyboard. So what you're doing is when you're typing on a laptop with a numpad, like a Legion, your hands shift over. That was the biggest shift. So for me using this Legion, or my version of this Legion, for almost a year and then switching over to a Yoga recently that does not have that, it actually took me like a full day because I kept coming over here while I was typing and I was like one singular key over and I kept making errors and I was like, stop it, bring your hands center, because I didn't have a numpad anymore. But it's impressive how fast you get used to being over here and like that. So anyways, it is what it is. Trackpad's fine. Nice and clicky. Not glass, not acrylic, just a plastic thing, but it feels nice and the click is good. Zero complaints about it, honestly. Maybe I'm just not the biggest trackpad dork. Like, I don't need this massive thing. As long as it's sharp and precise, I'm happy. Or haptic. I mean, I take haptic any day. But if it's not haptic, then I like a sharp click like that. And I don't like a nasty, deep plunge where it's like blook, blook. I like that sharp click. Now, the screen, we have two screens here. This is the previous generation IPS, which is obviously an inferior screen. It's 1200p. It's not as bright. It keeps costs down. If battery is super important, all this kind of stuff, sure, you can get it. The OLED is also different between them two. Not that it's fundamentally a different OLED. Like, pretend this is the OLED. Imagine with me, this is the previous generation OLED. The previous generation OLED was actually smaller, so it was 15.1 versus 15.3. The IPS, though, is 15.3, so 15.3, 15.3, same size. However, if you get the previous generation OLED, it is actually slightly smaller. You'll come in basically 0.2 inches. So a little bit, it'll be about that much smaller. So you get a little bit less room on the previous generation OLED. They are both glossy. They have, generally speaking, the same specs overall. One thing that is different here, I will show you this. I didn't know this, but you can see up here, this is, see that corner? It's square. See that? See that? It's a square. Over here, it is not. It is a rounded corner. See that? Just not a lot, just the tiniest little bit. The cursor just goes up in the corner. It's like a very minor rounded corner. It would not bother me. Actually, my laptop has the same. It's a Yoga 7 Pro, the new one, 2026 with Panther Lake. It doesn't bother me. I guess maybe someone, I don't think anyone would be bothered by that. Maybe there is like a super niche member of society who's like, I can't stand that. But I don't think there's really something to worry about. But just be aware that it does exist. I notice these things and they do exist. Now again, this is the IPS, so it's non-gloss. That's a major issue with these. They're glossy. So you can see like that's a massive spotlight. It's matte, right? It's an IPS. It's a non-glossy IPS. You can get glossy IPS. This is a non-glossy IPS. It's also low resolution, yada, 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 but you can see it's anti-reflective. Okay, sit you back up. You're just a showpiece. And then look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at that mirror. It's so reflective, which is my biggest complaint about the Lenovo Legions. They are all, like OLEDs are nice and all that, and there's net pluses and negatives, but the general gist of them is they're reflective. Whereas a ThinkPad, Lenovo ThinkPads with OLEDs are not reflective. They're kind of like a semi in between. I would complain, but they finally released the anti-gloss screen protector. I bought 3 of them. I bought 2 16-inch ones, because apparently they also fit on maybe some other Lenovos. We shall see. And I bought 1 of the 15.3. This is not my laptop. I really debated putting it on this laptop for this review and sacrificing my thing, but they keep going out of stock. And I'm legitimately worried that if I buy it, maybe it'll be out of stock, it won't ship or something like that. And I put mine on this laptop, and then all of a sudden it goes out of stock, and I'm like, oh, it was like, yeah, I've been waiting for it for like 5 months. They keep going in and out of stock, and every time I go to buy it, they're gone. Moral of the story is, if you don't like reflections, like this reflection here, but you do want the other benefits of the OLED, in this case, it actually is a very nice OLED with good colors and all that, but you want the absolute blacks, they do have the matte screen protector, anti-reflective, put it on there. Be aware, when you put on anti-reflective coating, it does not affect colors. You'll still have, generally speaking, about the same vibrancy. Glossy is slightly more vibrant in terms of colors, but it's not like a game changer. It's just a little bit. But some of the blacks and that can potentially look slightly less rich because you get light diffusion. Here we don't have light diffusion. We have reflections like crazy, and you just get the full saturation, the full boldness and everything, but it's so reflective. So that's an option for you. If you are looking at the Legion's 16-inch or the 15.3-inch, and you are worried about the gloss, and you watch my videos, I've complained about it many times, that's an option, right? One of the reasons that I was like, I really wish they brought back the IPS. There are some other benefits to the IPS, no burn and easier on the eyes, that kind of stuff. But my primary gripe was the gloss. I really wanted them to bring back the IPS because of the gloss. You know, you guys better appreciate me. This is my screen protector that I wanted for my laptop. But what's a review without this? Lenovo loaned me this laptop, so I don't know, man. I'm only doing this because the other one appears to be in stock, and I will literally just rebuy it. I will literally, when this video is done recording, I'm going to rebuy it. Like right now, it's in stock and it's on sale, so I'm going to buy it right after this video. So let's do it. I mean, I've reviewed this laptop a bazillion times, different iterations of it with the glossy screen. The only difference is it's rounded, so we're going to give this a try. We'll try these things out. I guess that's a review of this anti-reflective screen. I have no clue if this is hard to do. I suspect, yes, it's hard to do because it's massive. I'll try to get this on camera and see how difficult it is. I'm actually going to leave the screen on because it, in my opinion, in my experience, makes it easier. Yeah, let's do it. So it's an anti-reflective screen coat protector, so it's going to work as a protector, and I've heard that it also helps with reflections. I don't know, it says that it does. So that's the back, that's one. So that's going to go there, and it's basically going to switch in there. Now this does not work on the previous generation. Actually, it might work. No, it won't because it's rounded. It will not work on that, and it will not work on the smaller one, obviously. Getting these bubbles out of the screen. Getting these bubbles out before I scream. Okay, I did a pretty good job. There's one spot somewhere. It'll come off eventually. It just, whatever. It was actually kind of easier to set it like this. To be honest, I probably should have done that from the beginning. It is what it is. Just a little bit like that. Get it to the point where it's flat. Just a little easier. Anyways, so then now... That was really loud. I'm going to try to mute that in the post-production. Yeah, I really like that, actually. This, man, that really fixes the Legion complaint for me. My biggest complaint, just watch my channel, my biggest complaint about the Legions was the reflectivity. It does cut down there on the reflectivity, but it's still so saturated and clear, and it really didn't affect like light diffusion in the black areas, and the colors look good. It doesn't look matte, like it doesn't look truly matte like that. I really like this screen protector. Yeah, that looks really good. Okay, so that's sick, actually. Yeah, and it just cuts down the... There still is some glare, so it's not a full matte. If that's what you wanted, it's not going to do that. But it's just enough to cut it down a little bit where it's not annoying. Like, part of the video here, you might have seen me. Like, I was super reflective. Like, look at that. I didn't adjust anything. It was so reflective up to this point. Yeah, this is a really good purchase. I'm going to go buy a couple more right now, just for the things that I mess with. I'm happy that I did this in the video, to be honest. I sacrificed my thing for you guys. It looks quite good. Maybe I'll just make a quick video out of this as well. Like from this clip, this looks really good. Yeah, that's an instant buy. I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to go buy a couple more just so I don't miss out on these, but these look very good. Okay, so again, I've tested the screen, like the other variant at 15.1. It's exactly the same screen on so many different laptops, Legions, that kind of stuff. I've used it for a long time, done the reviews, all that kind of stuff. It's the same screen. So the disadvantage of those screens was the reflections. This anti-reflective coating is literally a game changer. It's night and day. It's actually night and day. I don't like normally filming these Legion laptops with their OLEDs because they're so reflective. It drives me nuts. All I can see is myself the whole time. Look at that. You can't see me at all. It's such a freaking game changer. It's such a game changer. It's like $17 or 20 bucks. I don't know, something like that. Same as any other screen protector. If you get one of these Legions, it is kind of annoying to install, but get it, take your time, get it installed, and it's a game changer. You get all the benefits of the screen still looking amazing, but it looks way better because it's not reflective. It's not going to bother you. It's easier on the eyes, and you can actually enjoy the screen more because it's not so freaking reflective all the time. Now, the screen itself is incredible, obviously. These are really nice screens. 1600p, especially at the 15-inch segment, is going to be quite pixel dense. That's obviously very nice. You get access to 165 hertz refresh. You can go into dynamic mode to 60, whatever. Very good. You also have incredible colors. So as we can see here, you have very high saturation. This is a high resolution screen, as we've already talked about. Yada yada yada. Bright, whatever. But the other thing to consider here is this screen here is 100% DCI-P3. What does that mean? Well, 100% DCI-P3 screen means that color space means that the screen is able to push further into the colors. If you have a lower color space screen, such as an sRGB screen or a 45% NTSC screen, the colors go down and down and down. In the case of 45% NTSC, it's going to look terrible. 100% sRGB is still great. I'll never complain about sRGB. But in the DCI-P3 color space, these colors are incredibly saturated. It's good for creation type work. If you do video editing, if you do graphic design especially, that web design, whatever you're doing that's graphically intensive, mapping, that kind of stuff, the colors are going to be more vibrant and you're going to be able to push into those color spaces better. So you can see colors on this screen that you cannot see on a lower screen. You wouldn't be able to see them. If you were watching this video on a laptop that has a lower color space screen, you won't be able to see what I'm showing you. You would have to go onto either a better laptop or pull out your phone. Typically phones, generally speaking these days, decent phones, have high color space screens. So then you'll be able to see what I'm seeing. That's for creation type stuff. Now for gaming or consuming, so watching movies, watching shows, and gaming, having these saturated colors is critical because it looks more vibrant. It doesn't look like a desaturated, gross thing. It pulls you into the content more effectively because it looks so damn good. Now, another place where DCI-P3 is very important is reds. Arguably the most important is reds. Greens, you can definitely notice it. It's very obvious in greens when you have a non-DCI-P3 color space screen. The greens look desaturated a little bit. Reds, though, are noticeably different. Even going down to an sRGB screen, the reds start to become washed out, a little bit pinky and orange. You can't push into this really vibrant royal red. And then when you go down to NTSC, they look terrible. But generally speaking, these types of reds are great on DCI-P3 screens. In gaming, when you don't have a super high quality DCI-P3 screen, or when you're watching movies and shows, I don't know, it's just not as enjoyable because it's not as immersive. It's not pulling you into those colors. Here, it's going to pull you in because it's so freaking vibrant. It's incredibly vibrant. Now, as we can see here, it's hard to see. It's really hard to record OLEDs, by the way. My camera's freaking out. I'm not doing it, I'm not touching it. As you can see here, this is black. The pixels are off here. These are on. So my camera's freaking out because it's like, what's happening? There's no light here. There's light here. As you can see here, though, if I can get my phone to stop freaking out, I don't even see that. That's actually oversaturated. I see that, which is really rare for me. When I'm recording these videos, it's a freaking mirror here all the time. Unless I get myself like a high quality anti-reflective OLED, say like, a ThinkPad P1 or something, or T1 or something like that has an anti-reflective coating. This contiguous black is a freaking mirror. Just watch any of my videos. You'll just see, like, it's very obvious. It's super annoying because you just see my stupid ass face the whole time. In this case here, because I now have that anti-reflective coating on here, my critique of this laptop goes down. It's decreased because this anti-reflective coating really does help a lot with reflection handling to the point where you can't really see me anymore. Yeah, it's extra money, but it's like 20 bucks. You install it. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass to install, but once it's installed, it really does overcome my primary gripe with this laptop. There still are some negatives of OLED. When you turn when you turn it down a lot, you get PWM flicker. There's always a risk of burn-in. Whether that's important or not is just your call, but there's always a risk of it. But the primary negative of these OLEDs is the reflectiveness. If Lenovo is going to supply this screen protector, it's going to overcome my primary gripe. That being said, you still have to buy it and you still have to install it. It's a massive pain in the ass. Now, the primary weakness of this laptop is the speakers. It is what it is. They just don't have good speakers. But they are better than they used to be. There's some bass. Little hollow. Little not rich, but they're not tinny or rattly. They're okay. I mean, yeah, laptop speakers, gaming laptop speakers in the past, unless they were like pretty high end, like a 7i series from Lenovo, or like an Asus G14, not the Strix, the ROG stuff. They always had like good speakers. Lenovo Legion 7i Pro always had pretty good speakers, but the 5 series were always pretty bad. In the past, like a few years ago, they were actually like bad. Like they were not enjoyable. They have gotten better, but they're still not great. I'd still say it's the biggest weakness of this laptop is the speakers are mediocre. I think Lenovo should just put in the ThinkPad speakers. You don't have to put in the big boomers from my Yoga. My Yoga has massive boomers in it. My Lenovo Yoga. I don't expect that. Like, that's market segmentation. It costs money, but it's also just segmentation. Like, it's just, they want you to buy the creator laptop if you're going to be a creator. But they could put in the ThinkPad speakers. There's the ThinkPad speakers, the little rectangle ones. They are better than these. They wouldn't make it so it's still some creator laptop and it kills off their market for the Yogas or anything like that, but it would just make it a little better. So that's a weakness for sure, the speakers. Now, software, we'll go back to the Legion space. We're out of the keyboard now. You can get Lenovo Vantage on these if you want it, but they don't need it anymore. Lenovo Vantage is now for the consumer non-gaming stuff and the pro stuff as well. They use Vantage. You can still put it on here and it'll still work, but everything has been moved to Legion Space. Legion Space came out with the Legion Go 1. It had some issues in the beginning. It's come a very long way. So you have your warranty information up there. You can upgrade it if need be. You have your RGB stuff there. We've already shown that. You have your GPU working mode, performance stuff. So iGPU will disable the dedicated graphics. If you are worried about Windows waking up your dedicated graphics, which it will do unless you do something I'm going to show you, you can put it in IGP mode and there's nothing to wake up. You will get maximum battery. These are Arrow Lake CPU. You can get it with AMD, of course, and they generally just have good battery. They're not Panther Lake this year, not yet, but they generally have good battery. If you disable that. If your NVIDIA keeps waking up, your battery will be shit. You have hybrid mode, which is either or. When you're just doing Windows stuff, it should be on iGPU. When you're not doing Windows stuff, it should be on dedicated graphics. Sometimes Windows can be a dickhead about that. You have some other stuff in here. You have your performance modes. So you have quiet, balanced, performance, and custom. Lowest watt, medium, high, and custom. These actually affect noise and thermals. They affect noise because they affect thermals. The amount of watts that can go into the CPU and the GPU are considerably affected by these. Lenovo has some of the best tuning, I would say, of these performance modes, where performance is obviously like very good. It'll be noisier and hotter. Balanced works very well, incredibly well. Most of my gaming I do there, but I also do a lot of gaming in quiet mode because it works very well. My Yoga that's just behind me, these work really well, but the quiet mode is actually too low. The watts go too low, and so it starts to chug. Lenovo tunes that quiet mode. I have full videos gaming on quiet mode, and they tune it just enough so that it performs really well, but runs super quiet. Now I'm very curious about the thermals and CPU performance of this laptop. Why? Well, first of all, we have a brand new CPU. This is an Arrow Lake CPU, Intel Arrow Lake, but it's a revision, so it's a 251HX. This laptop, with the Intel version at least, normally ships the 255HX or the 275HX. Intel released this one here. It has less cores, so they cut out a couple cores from it, which will slightly impact synthetics like this and just general CPU stuff. It's still very fast, but it should impact this slightly. But what it might also do is decrease the amount of watts that are going to be used under idle because there's less cores using things. It'll bring the temperatures down, and it potentially might actually increase gaming performance. Maybe. Not always, but sometimes extra cores don't necessarily mean gaming is better. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. What we can see here, though, is the CPU is idling reasonably low, 5 watts, for an HX chip. Mid-range Core Ultra 7, or upper mid-range Core Ultra 7 HX chip. Idling around 5 watts is pretty good, honestly. It's not Arrow Lake H, which would be around 3 or 3.5 watts. It's not Panther Lake in my primary laptop, which idles around 0.5 to 1 watt. But it's also a significantly more powerful CPU. So generally speaking, we're idling quite low, which also means that the temperatures are pretty low. Performance mode, balance, silent. So we'll start in the inverse. We'll start with silent mode here. We'll run it for a sec and see how noisy it is. Then we'll do balanced. Then we'll do performance and see how noisy and what the thermals and the watts are like. So you can see here, this is silent mode. It dumps in a reasonable amount of watts, 65, which is nowhere near the peak of what this chip can do. The fans kick on. I mean, 65 watts. My Panther Lake laptop can't even go that fast under full load. It's not capable of going that fast. It's a totally different segment, but just so you know, my laptop, which is a brand new Panther Lake laptop, top SKU, it cannot go that fast. It'll go about that fast, 20,000. It can't go that fast. So this thing here has a lot more power, obviously, than, you know, a super battery efficient chip. It's also using a lot more watts, but it also has more robust cooling. So this under this type of performance, which is still technically faster than my laptop, this will go down now, is quieter. So it'll end up here around 20,000 after running out of that boost over here. But at about this amount of watts, which is about the peak of my laptop under full load, this laptop is quieter. Because it's a gaming laptop. It has more robust cooling, by far. Now we'll put it into balance mode. It's warmer, of course, because it's more watts. We're at 10 to 20, even 25 more watts here. So it's going to be noisier and hotter. .41 dB is very respectable. That's about as loud as my Ultrabook will go. Totally different laptops, but this is quite good. I mean, it's got a lot of cooling in there. So now what we'll do is we'll go up one more. We'll go up to performance mode. Man, that fan turned off really fast. Holy smokes. I mean, the temperatures drop really quick. It does have pretty good cooling, so. Now we can see here, obviously it's a lot louder, of course. But it's still not bad. I mean, we're looking at about 48 dB here. Approximately 48 dB, significantly higher watts, almost 100 watts sustained, and it's running pretty well. I used the 255HX for a very long time in this previous generation of this laptop for many months. It was great, but yeah, I think it was just too many cores. Those extra couple cores meant it ran hotter, it idled higher, and in gaming, it was just using more power for no reason. The actual performance, you can see here, the full performance, right, full load is 26,000. Now, that's very good. If you got a 255HX with those extra 2 cores, this would be at around 30,000, 29 to 30,000. So it does make a difference. This is incredibly fast though. This is 6,000 faster than my brand new top spec Panther Lake laptop under full, everything it can give me. It's also 6,000 faster than the Arrow Lake 285H. Significantly faster. So don't think that that's bad. 26,000 is very fast. That's upper tier gaming laptop, but it is lower than the 255HX and the 275HX, which makes sense because it's less cores. That's fine. Balanced is very minimal drop off for how much quieter it is. You're looking at 2,000 drop off, which is about 10%. Yeah, about 10% or so. And it's not gonna make a big difference. You can see it's 18 cores instead of 20 cores on the 255HX. It's very fast. It's way up there for a laptop. And this is a thin and light laptop, right? Very portable thin and light laptop. 15-inch segment, very thin for a Legion. And then silent mode is probably the most impressive because you saw how quiet that was. It's still at 20,000. It's giving me under silent mode here the max that my previous Arrow Lake 285H or the 388H Panther Lake could give me. This is the max, and this is under its silent mode. It's very good, to be honest. Just some other quick benchmarks here. I mean, the Wi-Fi is pretty standard. I can get faster Wi-Fi in some laptops, some are lower, but it's very reasonable. The uploads suck, but that's pretty standard for being across the house. It's pretty normal. And the included SSD is just a Samsung high-end Samsung Gen 4 drive. So nice and quick. No complaints there. It's a 2242, the one that comes with it. So it's nice to see that that drive is quite fast. You don't really need to swap it out. You could, the first thing you'd want to do, especially in this shitty market, is to add in a second drive rather than tweaking with that there. Now, battery life, we can kind of do a little bit live, actually, to be honest. As we know here, the CPU package is going to idle down. It went down to about 5 watts, right? Now, a lot of the power in these systems here is actually screen. If you have my Panther Lake laptop, for example, it idles at like half a watt or 1 watt. So the most of the power actually goes into not the chip, but the screen and all the other crap here. So we're going to do this here. You're at 60 hertz here. We are at full brightness. I never turn this down on Arrow Lake chips. It's actually a bit lower than the one with 2 more cores, which makes sense. It has 2 less cores. So what that translates into, though, is pretty good battery life. It's not going to be crazy. It's not going to be the best battery life in the world. It's still an HX chip. But you can see here, the NVIDIA GPUs slept, right? It's not, oops, it's not doing anything. So it's not pulling any watts. It might trickle, I don't know, like a quarter watt or something, if maybe, but probably not. So generally speaking, the power is going to the CPU is pulling 5 to 6 watts. A lot of the power is actually going into the screen. Right? The screen itself is actually pulling a lot of battery. So we know that the CPU is going to idle around 5 watts, approximately. Depends on what's going on, how much Windows bloat you have and crap. And so what that translates into is typically, the system is going to idle. Usually, it depends on what's going on, but usually the screen, the RAM, and all the other crap when you're idling should drop down once it's finished doing stuff to around 10 watts, something like that. So you can see here how quickly this battery is dropping down in real time. Like I'm showing you it showing you it happen, right? And again, this is full brightness. The only thing I have tweaked here is I put it to 60 hertz because that is actually something somebody would do. They wouldn't put the laptop to minimum brightness and turn off their Wi-Fi and do all that kind of stuff, but they would turn down the refresh. And we're idling way down, right? Under 8 watts, which gives us 10 hours of battery life. Idle. It's idle, but we're not doing much, but still 10 hours. This is a gaming laptop, powerful chip. It doesn't need a ton of watts to do basic tasks. Like when I come in here and I upload YouTube, which is pretty heavy, it's going to load in all these videos, all these pictures, all this crap gets loaded in, right? The watts will go up, of course, because it's doing something. It'll go up, and then technically it'll go back down. So we'll come in here, we'll put me in here. Now, it'll buffer in the beginning. Let's turn this closed caption off. It'll buffer in the beginning. It'll do some stuff. Once that buffering kicks up, the drain will go down, right? So doing this heavy task right now, which is, buffering the video, having all this stuff going on, you can see that it's, of course, burning more watts. We added 8 or 9 watts to get this process done. But you can see it's already starting to creep back down, which will still give you, 6 or 7 hours straight YouTube, right? On the low end, 5 to 6 hours. So how about some video editing? Now, this is a gaming laptop, but it's not just for gaming. A lot of people who buy these Legions, especially these more portable, thinner Legions, buy them for the fact that they are pretty good for mixed use, on-the-go work. So bring that in here. Now, this is a monster CPU, truly a monster. So we're going to be able to come in here. We're going to be able to do heavy video editing very fast because it's going to process these video files very quickly. Right, come in here, snap these things all up here. Let's go to about 5 minutes. It's already ready to rumble. Like that. And this is not feeling laggy at all. Whoops, not feeling laggy at all. It's feeling nice and snappy, despite the fact that I just threw these in like a moment ago. This editing process on this program is incredibly CPU heavy. Doesn't do much for the GPU. Doesn't use the GPU, sorry, yet much, but it's very CPU heavy. This is feeling very snappy. Super demanding. This is 4K 60 HEVC compression, access to NVC coders. So now when I export, it's still going to use the CPU a lot. This program at least uses a lot of CPU, but it also relies heavily on the GPU, obviously. So despite the fact that I now have a 10-minute 4K 60 video, I have all kinds of stuff going on here. It'll rip it out in about 25% of the length. So here, this is a 10-minute video. It should do it in about 2 to 2.5 minutes. It is faster than my 5060 and my Yoga. This has a more powerful CPU and a more powerful GPU and more VRAM. So it is faster to do a 10-minute video. So it's very fast. That's why a lot of people who do things like video editing buy Legions, right? Or gaming laptops in general, but I know a lot of people buy Legions for that. People who do engineering, all that kind of stuff, CAD, students, business people, all that kind of stuff. It's not just people who are doing gaming. They also buy these Legions. So gaming. If you watch my video on the Legion 7i, when the 12 gigabyte variant of the 5070 first came out, I compared it to the 8 gigabyte. I don't need to do too much. Long story short, the 8 gigabyte model got crushed. When the VRAM is the same, it doesn't really make much of a difference at all, if any. But it's pretty common to go over VRAM limits of 8, especially the 5070. It's too powerful for 8. So there was many cases where the 12 gigabyte was just... So here we can actually turn this way up. Like we could come in here, we could actually go up to quality. It's really going to want to have 12 gigabytes of VRAM. If we throw on things like scaling, it will not necessarily decrease the VRAM that much, just the way that these games are, but it will increase your performance. But you have to get your VRAM level up. Like right now we don't have the game on yet. It's already going to start telling us like, yeah, potentially. And there's higher things. Like you can turn these up, right? See what's threatening us? We have, it doesn't, maybe it thinks we have the lower one. I don't know. There's other games you could do too. Lots of games that are more GPU heavy than this. I'm not benchmarking the 5070 12 gigabyte. I'm just showing you a game where it's very easy to go over 8 gigabytes. The reason I'm picking this game is also very CPU heavy. It's a game where you're going to hit the CPU and the GPU. This is an incredibly powerful CPU, and by cutting those 2 cores out, you may think, okay, you've cut 2 cores out of the GPU. Is it going to, out of the CPU, 2 cores out of the CPU, does that mean it's actually going to be slower? Well, no. It doesn't mean that at all. I don't care. Because games don't necessarily utilize, let's go back here. Games don't necessarily utilize all of your cores, right? Like if you have extra cores in there, it doesn't mean it's actually going to use it. Right, about 30%. of the CPU usage. That's not necessarily accurate. Like, it doesn't mean it's going to be at 100% if it's using part of it, because the thing is, the one core might be getting hit harder. The GPU, though, as a result, is able to pull more watts. In my experience, go back and watch my videos. When I had this same laptop with a 5070, okay, but a 255HX CPU, 255H CPU, and a 5070, I was not able to consistently maintain over 100 watts on the GPU. Typically, it was sitting at about 100 and it couldn't go higher because the CPU was too hungry. The CPU. This CPU has 2 less cores, meaning it's less hungry. I have found, with my experience of testing it, that it does not use as many watts, and so it allows a little bit more power sharing to that GPU, which means the performance goes up. I have a lot of experience also with the AMD 388, which is a cut down version of the 395. You may think, by literally cutting the cores in half, you're going to get a huge performance loss in gaming, but you actually don't. You get a performance gain in gaming because there's just less CPU cores sucking up power. Another thing to note here, VRAM is at 10. Let's actually kick out here for a sec. Okay, we're at 10 gigabytes of VRAM. You could not get this level of performance on the 8 gigabyte version of the same GPU. You would have an 8 gigabyte VRAM buffer rather than 12 to work with, which is a lot. It's a big difference. So you would either get huge performance drops or you would get detexturing, one or the other, where the game starts to turn into a potato and looks like a PlayStation 2 title, or you would get performance drops. Here we have neither. Right? We have all that extra VRAM. Our performance is incredible. And we are not getting any detexturing. Remember, this is turned way the F up. The graphics are turned up to, I put it up to the max preset, quality preset, and I came down here and I increased the texture. So we're above the max preset. The preset was set to max, then I turned it up even more. We do not have upscaling on. FSR is turned off. DLSS is turned off. We do not have frame gen on. This is native 1600p above max preset. The only thing that I don't have turned on is ray tracing, but this is, you could, but you'd want to turn it down. It's not like a ray tracing monster or anything like that. But that you have to respect it. If you're going to be able to get 60 on truly max native, why is he not attacking? There you go. It's weird. I guess they don't attack the decoys. It's the first time I got it. Anyways, if you're going to be able to get 60 FPS gameplay like this, and there's no upscaling. This is just raw performance, right? I could easily throw on some upscaling in a moment when I will, but I'm happy with 60 FPS with this kind of settings, these truly cranked up settings. But I think a lot of people would, put on some scaling. And again, this is maxed out, so we're like, look at the VRAM. We're getting close to the max of this, but it's still enough. What I can do, but you can see that was just a nice, smooth, native 60-ish type experience. Then you could turn down the presets, right? But we have all that VRAM, so why not use it? And then what we can do is we can come down here, we can throw in some scaling. It doesn't affect VRAM as much as you think in Capcom Engine. Some games it does, not in the Capcom Engine games. It doesn't actually affect VRAM that much, a little bit, but you can see we're at a much lower rendering resolution now because of DLSS, but we're still over 10 gigabytes. Wrecked. It's funny because I've just been in this area so much that I've just been like leveling my character like crazy, benchmarking games, just so overpowered. Anyways, performance is incredible, right? It's incredible. We'll do one more game. Now I'm going to look at the thermals here with the thermal camera. We can see here where my hand is. My hand's about 33 ish degrees Celsius, underneath it's actually cooler than my skin temperature because that's where the fan is. It's actually running cool. So it actually cools my hand by touching that area. It's really nice. Up here, it looks red because of the palette, but it actually is quite cool. It's under 40 degrees max. Along the screen here, there's no hot spots. There's no fan exhaust going onto the screen at all. So that's really nice. Then looking at the bottom, again, the red palette makes it look a little more aggressive, but this is not hot on the legs at all. Like it's, 40, 45 degrees or so. Where your legs actually sit is not hot. And this is a plastic bottom, so it's quite nice compared to, big metal bottom laptop or something that would feel a lot hotter. So pretty impressed with this here. So we're gonna go here. We're gonna go in with some Battlefield 6. I'm doing Battlefield 6 because, I was gonna do Cyberpunk, but I'm so tired of it. And Cyberpunk's more controlled. That's why people do it. Even not in the benchmark mode. It's a controlled area. Here, this is gonna be very dynamic. But I'm going to put it at Ultra, and you can see here the VRAM is over 8 gigabytes, and we have 12 to work with. So you couldn't, theoretically, you couldn't play this mode, you couldn't play these settings on the 8 gigabyte version of this GPU. So we'll see what we can get here. This is, Ultra. It's not what they call competitive settings. People like to play these games at like Ultra low, Ultra this, Ultra that, Ultra upscaling, Ultra F, whatever, just so that, you get the maximum frame rate. I'm not competitive in this game, and I just want it to look good and play well. So as long as I can get 60 FPS, but with good lows, I'll be happy. Actually, we're doing really well here. Now, I don't know about the lows. This is not the type of game where I want to be having lows of 10, but we'll see. The average is actually quite good, 76. Again, this is really high. We're way over that 8 gigabytes of VRAM. We're at 9.2. So again, you could not play with these exact settings on the 8 gigabyte version of this GPU. You would either have, detexturing or huge frame hitches, and we're not having that. This is actually running really well. This is Ultra. And the reason I'm doing Battlefield is we can look at the CPU. The CPU is, we're only on balance mode, by the way, just so you know. The CPU is going to get hit pretty hard. You can see it's at 61%. And we're only on balance mode. The GPU is only pulling 86, the CPU is pulling 30. This is a very respectable performance for native Ultra. It's not running as well as it should run here, but let's see that. So now we're on performance mode. The CPU will get a little bit more juice here. The GPU will get a little bit more juice, and now we're up to like 56 for the loads. This is actually how I would play. I don't need 150 FPS. I'm not good at this game at all, even playing on a controller. And if you are, you can turn the settings down, which I will do, just to see how it loads up the CPU more. Because right now the CPU, it's at 61%, but we still have some CPU left over. Very powerful CPU, and the GPU, it's a good pairing. 251HX with the 5070 12 gigabytes seems like a really good pairing. Like a match that makes logical sense. We'll put it that way. This is running really well. Okay, DLSS, is there a higher DLSS? Oh, DLSS 4.5, interesting. Sure, let's go like that. We'll throw on more because it's more demanding. VRAM actually came down slightly. FPS did go up. Not, 100, but it went up by about 20. GPU is about the same. 5 points. That's probably all I'll get in the match. Like literally. But as you can see here, it's running very well. And the VRAM is actually more than 10. It's, even with upscaling on, it's more than 10. Look at that. Like it's 68 for the lows. And again, this is on Ultra. You could turn it up and get more competitive settings. Sorry, turn it down and get more competitive settings. And that's what a lot of people do, right? And let's do that actually. So we'll come in here. I don't want the game to like lag out. So we'll come in here. We're going to leave the upscaling on actually, just for now. And we'll turn this down to low, which will really it'll take the VRAM down, and it should load up the CPU more actually, to be honest. Which it has. You can see now the CPU is up to 72. The GPU is actually no longer pulling its full watts, like 100. And because the GPU is not, well, that was weird. The GPU is not quite at 100% utilization, but it's close, obviously. It has enough juice that even if you throw this thing on low and you want even higher, more competitive FPS, you can get it. Like, here we're up to 120 FPS with lows of 80. And there's no frame gen. So this is real frames. You're not going to feel any latency at all. Remember, frame gen introduces latency, not upscaling. Upscaling might introduce artifacting, pixelation, and that kind of stuff. But again, we're at 1600p with just balanced scaling. So I don't notice any pixelation, no issues here. The VRAM is now under 8. So you could do this exact setting on the 8 gigabyte version of this laptop. So if you got a 5060, because you can get this laptop with a 5060, you could get approximately the same settings. The performance would go down because it's a 5060, not a 5070. So you'd lose about 10% performance. approximately. So, this would come down to 105, something like that. But the VRAM would be okay. So if you get this laptop with a 5070 12 gigabyte like this here, you can turn it all the way up to even ultra and really benefit from that extra performance, extra VRAM with those higher demanding settings and still have enough performance. Or because the CPU is so powerful, either of them, the 5060 or the 5070, you can play with these type of settings here, crank up the VRAM a little bit here, crank down the VRAM here a little bit so it can fit within the GPU. But despite that, you're still going to get excellent performance because the CPU is so powerful, it's able to... Ooh. Okay, negatives. Same as last year, horrible for fingerprints, truly horrible. It's not the end of the world. A lot of people don't care. I do. And you can just wipe it down, but it does legitimately bother me. That's why I didn't wipe it down, to show you. It's very bad for fingerprints. But they have a white version. They have a cave troll. So in that one, if you grab that one, you can essentially alleviate that problem. So it is a negative on this chassis, but it's fully alleviated this year because you have a white version that you can buy. Couldn't do that last year. So maybe I'd put it in the neutral category or positive, even positive, because the white one would be positive, the black one would be negative. So pick your thing. I think the black one looks nice, but it's terrible for fingerprints. So I would highly recommend the white chassis of this. Don't rub Cheeto dust and peanut butter all over it because it will be gross because it's a white chassis, but generally speaking, that will alleviate. My primary gripe with this laptop has always been fingerprints, which sounds crazy, but it is. The second negative is the OLED screen is unbelievably glossy. So it is a negative because you have to then buy the screen. But again, there's an option now. There wasn't before. So in the negative category is highly reflective screen, but you can buy, this was $17, actually was on sale, but you can get them for $25 on normal, or you can get them on sale. $25 is the full price. For the screen protector, it's a game changer. You throw it on there, it's so good. Like, I'm probably going to try to pick one of these up now because my primary gripe was the fingerprints. That's gone because of the white, and the screen reflectivity is gone because of the screen protector. So my primary issues with this laptop are now gone. Speakers are bad, okay? I was giving them a pass in the past because it was a huge improvement. The Legion 5 stuff usually had bad speakers, whereas the 7 had good speakers. They stepped up the Legion 5 this year and last year to have like they're passable speakers, but they're still not good. So Lenovo, please just put in like the ThinkPad speakers. Just get the ThinkPad speakers. They're little rectangle ones. Just toss them in here. They're not gonna mess up your market segmentation. They're not gonna compete with the 7. The 7 will still be significantly better, but it will just give this one slightly more edge where it's like, it doesn't sound bad. It sounds okay. That's my other negative. So the chassis can be made white, solves that. Screen protector can get rid of the gloss. So the only remaining negative is the speakers are not that great. I would put them in the moderate to bad category. In the world of gaming laptops, they're moderate, but in the world of laptops in general, they're leaning towards bad. That's it. Neutrals, they did cut the dual 2280, put in one 2280, one 2242 NVMe inside. It's okay because it's a thinner laptop, much thinner laptop, and it's also shorter this way, so they have to make compromises, okay? The compromise that they made was not on the battery, the compromise was not on the SODIMM, and it was not on the cooling solution. It was only on making that one NVMe slightly shorter. I'm fine with that, because most people are going to use that NVMe that comes with it and expand by putting one into the other slot, which is a 2280 anyways. My primary laptop, the Yoga, which is never here when I'm trying to show it off, has a 2242 and a 2280. So I got it, I left the stock one in there, and I just threw in another NVMe in the second slot. So it's a neutral. It is unfortunate that they had to do that, but I fully get why they do it, so I will not take points off for that. I suppose that's the only neutral. I mean, it's a plastic chassis, but again, that keeps the weight down, keeps the heat down, so it's a neutral. It's not a positive or a negative. Positives now. You get incredible keyboard. Best in class, really. Not going to have problems with that. Trackpad is very good. It's not going to be for everybody. Some people would prefer haptic trackpad, larger trackpad, glass trackpad. I don't care. It's clicky, and it's sharp. The screen is obviously incredible. It's very, very, very vibrant. OLED screen, high refresh, bright enough, no problems with it whatsoever. It's a truly immersive screen by having this semi-anti-reflective coating. It's not matte, it's semi-anti-reflective coating on here. It really does make the laptop so much more enjoyable. And recording the damn laptop is so much easier when you have this coating on it. That's why I left it on for most of the review, because I don't have my stupid ass face reflected in the laptop the whole time. It's a game changer. So the screen is obviously now it's incredible. You do have to spend the extra 17 to 20 bucks to get that screen protector and put it on, but it's such a game changer. So most brands don't have that. You either get an anti-reflective or you do not, and then you're just effed if you don't have it. Here we have a solution. Performance is outstanding. truly. You can get the 275HX, 290, sorry, you can get the 290HX on this. I wouldn't recommend it unless you are doing the most CPU intensive stuff around. Maybe you do like code compile 24/7. Okay. But for mixed use, people like what I do, which is CPU heavy, but it's also GPU heavy, all that kind of stuff, get the 251HX. It's a better chip. It's weaker than the 255HX. It costs less money, so that's nice. You save some money. And by cutting out those 2 cores, yeah, you do lose a little bit of synthetic benchmark performance on CPU tasks, but the GPU is doing better now. On last year, if you watch my reviews, the last year's model with the 5070 on Intel 255HX, 275HX, the GPU was a little hungry. It wasn't even hitting 100 watts a lot of the time. It was sitting at like 95 watts because the CPU was too hungry. It could not perform at those low watts. This one can because it has less cores. Less cores means less watts going to each core. So this thing is happy to just sit there at like 30 to 35 watts on the CPU. Just, yeah, I'm fine here. I'm at 30 watts. GPU, you can have your 100, 105, 110, even 115 watts. I'm fine. I'm chilling over here. That allows the GPU to perform better. So the CPUs perform better because it's not choking, and the GPU performs better because it's not choking because the CPU is stealing all the watts. But the 5070 now with 12 gigabytes is a fantastic GPU. Yes, it's not as powerful as a 5070 Ti, but it's also lower watts. It runs cooler. It does not require as much cooling. Does not require as much power. It's cheaper, so it's awesome. 5070 12 gigabytes, awesome. It's expensive now, but everything's expensive. Seriously consider the Legion 5. It's such a good laptop. The only true negative now is the speakers are not great. So if you're doing music creation, that is a negative. Otherwise, it's a banger. Great laptop here. Great laptop.